Ram Swami. The last sentence was really profound. So I'll read and then we will continue. In other words, I behave to their face in one way, but behind their back, I do something completely different. That's where we left yesterday. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that there are different classes of devotees, and these elements, in fact, all different grades of devotees, unless they are purified. Who can say that we have purified our consciousness? Not yet. So we are all on the same boat. From the very neophyte or the lowest devotees to the most advanced devotee, deceit affects and influences everyone. Specifically, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses names which are not usually used elsewhere. But it's not uncommon for acharyas to coin terminology of their own or to use terminology in their own way. In Rupa Goswami Ujjvala Nilamani and other books, he also creates some of his own terminology. Similarly, here Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about three different types of sadhakas, saying that all of these three types of sadhaka can become infected by devotiousness and hypocrisy. We will examine the three different types of devotees and also see what type of deceit manifests in each of them according to the type of work that they do and what the resulting symptoms will be as they will vary. I think we have read also, but this is something repetition or maybe in detail may come. Look forward to hear. We need to hear it many times. So the first type of a sadhaka is called Swanishta Bhakta, if you remember. Second is Parinishta. And third is Nirupeksha, if you remember. And Acharya has given for the Swanishta is the sixth type of deceit. And I think for Paranishta, 8 type of deceitful activities. And for the Nirupeksha, there were 2 type of deceitful activities. That's what I remember. But let's see what Sivaram Maharaj has to say. Swanishta is a household devotee who is very much devoted to self-realization, to Krishna consciousness, but has the specific characteristics that he or she does not particularly act in the Varnashrama system. And this person's desire is simply to show and satisfy Lord Hari, which means, for instance, household devotees who are residents in the temple, who are really just doing everything that they can. Practically speaking, they are living like brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, having an austere and simple lifestyle. These are Swanishta Bhaktas. One thing that what I heard from my Guru Maharaj, and I think we took one exception also, what it says over here. But my Guru Maharaj told me when I was TP that we should not allow any Grahastha to live in the temple. This is the standard. Only Brahmachari can stay. But at one point, my godbrother, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, I wrote to Gurudev and we agreed to leave him in one of the room in old temple. So there is exceptions. But normally, Grahastha should not stay in temple. Okay, the second, the Puranishta Bhakta is another type of householder who is also a good devotee. Such persons are dedicated to following the rules and regulations. They live at home and organize their life to conform with the rules of devotional service and makes the worship of the deity the center of the home. And the third type, a Nirupeksha Bhakta, is renunciate, a celibate, a detached sadhaka. These are the brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, sannyasis, and so on. Now let's see what happens to each of these three different types of individuals. So I think we will read. Just for the Swanishta today we will read. The Swanishta became contaminated by deceit when they indulge in sense gratification in the name of satisfying the Lord. Indulging in sense gratification means that for the sake of preaching or performing other activities, they use the principle of Yukta Vairagya as a means of legalizing sense gratification. The result will be that instead of serving devotees, they end up going out to show the rich and collect money beyond their needs. The symptom of that collection is that they themselves become the enjoyer of their wealth. I don't want to criticize anyone, but I remember one devotee, he had the bone marrow cancer in 1998. And when he saw that at our temple, nobody was getting paid for any services. So he was really, really happy. He says, Shyamsundar Prabhu, you pray to Krishna, he will listen to your prayer. And then he revealed that in India, he said all the brahmacharis, they own the flat, they own the car because they get some percentage of that. And I was just dwelling recently that brahmachari also should have some saving for emergency. And I have shared with some personalities. I think it's needed. But too much is not good, because that member was saying that it's so nice to see there is a temple where nobody is getting paid for the service. That was the time. Haribol. They take personal benefit from the fund they collect from their wealthy associates, some percentage. And although the wealthy may actually give the fund to such devotees for the institution, the deceitful Swanishta use the fund for themselves. Haribol. Furthermore, with the excuse of education for the sake of preaching, they become attached to speculation and logic as a means of trying to make a livelihood and really give up the principle of purity, simplicity, and faith. And third symptom is that such a person may then put on the dress of a renunciate, thinking, oh, I will live my household life, unquote, in order to increase prestige among the circle to whom he or she is preaching. So the deceitful Swanishta become speculators. What a strong instructions. So we will be reading tomorrow about the Parinishta devotees, and then When we finish, we will glance into the Nirupeksha devotees. Now we will dwell on the life of Srila Prabhupada. We are reading from the third volume, and chapter title is Swamiji's Departure. Srila Prabhupada still talked of going to India. He had virtually made up his mind to go. The question now was when and whether by the western route via Japan or the eastern route via New York. The grey skies and unseasonably cool temperature of the Stinson beach were a disappointment. His health was still poor. He even spoke of dying. It didn't matter whether he died in America or in Vrindavan, he said. You know, it is so nice to see that because I was the one of the executor of the will of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I have the privilege to get the will that he wrote. And it's so amazing to see what he wrote in the will, that if I die in Mayapur, then my samadhi should be in Mayapur. But if I die in Vrindavan, then have the samadhi in Vrindavan. And we see that he left the body near Mayapur. And that's what it happened, that his samadhi built in Mayapur and the Pushpa Samadhi. Two places is Pushpa Samadhi existence. One is at the Govardhan Ashram in Vrindavan. Other one is in Dallas, Texas. So this personality can see it, and I think that I'm just sharing something after 7 o'clock. Whoever can stay a little longer. I'm reading and dwelling in the life of Saint Tukaram from Maharashtra. And he was like Namacharya Haridas Thakur. So it's so much inspiration I get, and I'm sharing something every day. If you have a time and desire, you can stay a little longer. I don't take more than 10-15 minutes, but something so sublime to discuss. If a Vaishnava dies in Vrindavan, the land where Krishna appeared, he is assured of joining Krishna in the spiritual world. Yet, when Lord Chaitanya had traveled outside Vrindavan, his devotee Advaita has assured him, quote, wherever you are is Vrindavan. To be always absorbed in thinking of Krishna was also Vrindavan. So if he were to pass away while preaching Krishna consciousness anywhere in the world, certainly he would still attain to the eternal Vrindavan in the spiritual sky. Nevertheless, Prabhupada wanted to go to Vrindavan. It was the best place to die or to recuperate. Besides, he had a plan for bringing his disciples to Vrindavan for training. He expressed this plan in a letter to Srimati Morarji, the owner of the Scindia Steamship Company, as follows. I'm thinking of going back to India as soon as I get sufficient strength. I'm now considerably old. I'll be 72 years next September. But the work which I have begun in the Western world is not yet finished. And I require to train some of the American boys to preach this cult all over the Western world. So, if I return to India, I will have to take with me some of the boys for training. They are all nice boys to take up the training. So, your cooperation in this connection is greatly needed. You have already allowed my men from India free passage. Similarly, if you allow free passage for some of my American disciples, they can come to India and taking training from me at Vrindavan. The idea is that in this old age, I do not know when death will overcome me, and I wish to die in the last days of my life at Vrindavan. So Prabhupada told Kirtananda, Hayagriva, and others that he would take them with him and show them the sacred places of Krishna's pastimes. With the New York Temple's building fund, he would start his American house in Vrindavan. I may come to Montreal, perform the opening ceremony of installation of Radha Krishna Vigraha. Then I may go back to India for 6 months, as there is a program for construction of an American house for training preachers at Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the only solitary transcendental abode within this universe where Krishna consciousness automatically revolves. Therefore, I have a great hope to train some of my disciples for preaching work. Even in my absence, I am now old man and attacked with serious disease. I may be overcome by that at any moment. Therefore, I wish to leave some trained preachers so that they can do the work of Krishna consciousness in the Western world. That is my ambition. I hope you all pray to Krishna so that I may be able to execute my duty properly. This is real humility, right? He's a pure devotee, but he always felt that everything done by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, they never take the credit personally. That's the shining example of humility. When Govinda Dasi wrote Prabhupada, that she was anxious to serve him again as she had in New Jersey, he replied that he would be going to India to try to construct an American house, quote, where you will be invited to come and live for all the days. Both your husband and yourself, you will find a very peaceful atmosphere in Vrindavan to worship Krishna, unquote. Waiting for sufficient strength to travel, Prabhupada continued his daily routine at Stinson Beach. 1 or 2 at a time, devotees would visit him from San Francisco. His morning walks on the beach, his sitting to take in the sunshine whenever it peeled through the clouds, and his evenings of kirtan or reading in the living room remain undisturbed and peaceful. So Upendra is narrating this atmosphere in his own word as follows. He would sit in his chair on the beach side of the house. He liked to see us go in the water and play. At first, I felt a bit strange going in the water and knowing that Swamiji was watching me. But I went in and began washing my body. When I looked back at Swamiji, he was motioning from his chair, throwing his arm up like he was splashing in the water. He kept doing it until finally I understood that he wanted me to splash and play in the water. As I began to splash and jump around in the water, he nodded his head and smiled broadly. Mukunda is explaining this situation in his word as follows. I went on a walk on the beach with Swamiji, and when he sat down, I sat down opposite him. Then he asked me, quote, what is your definition of Krishna? Unquote. I said, Krishna is God. He is the Supreme Being. Our duty is to worship and serve Him. Unquote. Swamiji seemed fairly satisfied. And then he said, quote, you must chant 64 rounds per day on your beats. Unquote. I was shocked at this and could not answer. I did not know if there was any need to answer. I just kept looking at Swamiji and he looked at me. After some time he said, or at least you can chant 32 rounds a day. Unquote. Still silence. I considered to be very difficult to chant even 16 rounds. I was wondering how I would possibly chant 32 rounds. So after some time, Swamiji said, quote, at the very least, you must chant 16 rounds every day. I said, quote, yes, Swamiji. I knew that I could at least try to handle that much. So Prabhupada, so we know how this thing came to through Mukunda Maharaj. Prabhupada told Kirtananda that he wanted to play the piano. The Jagannath Desire, who had sat atop the piano for a week, were now back in San Francisco at the temple. But when Kirtananda and Upendra moved the piano away from the wall, they heard the thud of a falling object. What is that? Prabhupada asked. Kirtananda reached behind the piano and produced a framed canvas wrapped in a madras. He uncovered it and revealed a painting of Lord Nrsimhadev. Quote, why is this being hidden behind the piano? Prabhupada asked. Janki happened to be visiting at the time and she confessed. While she had been arranging the house for Prabhupada's arrival, someone had sent the painting out to the house. She had found it and hidden it. It was ghastly, she explained. Lord Nrsimha was tearing open Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, and there was blood everywhere. Patiently, Prabhupada explained that although materialistic people feel sorry for Hiranyakashipu, devotees become aesthetic when they see Nrsimhadev tearing him apart. Hiranyakashipu, he said, has terrorized the whole universe and had usurped the throne of India, the king of heaven. Hiranyakashipu had even tortured his own 5-year-old son Prahlad, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So there was nothing wrong in Lord Narsingha's pastime. In fact, Hiranyakasipu, having been killed by the Lord, had been liberated. After directing the devotees to hang the picture on the wall, Srila Prabhupada sat down and played the piano. The devotees had seen Prabhupada beautifully play the Indian harmonium, his left hand pumping the bellows and his right hand fingering the keyboard, but never a piano. They weren't aware he knew how, but he expertly played the melodies of Indian bhajans. After about 5 minutes, he stopped. Some evening Prabhupada will speak or arrange debates, although Kirtananda was constantly cautioning. When Prabhupada wanted to speak, it was impossible for any of his disciples to stop him. Sometimes he would ask Kirtananda to debate with one of the visiting devotees. One devotee would argue for the impersonalist or atheist position, and the other would argue for the Krishna conscious position. Prabhupada then would judge. But no sooner would the argument begin than Prabhupada would interrupt, take the position of a devotee, and defeat the atheistic or impersonalist argument. The devotees loved this. Prabhupada was unable to confine himself either to the role of a silent judge or to that of a recuperating patient. Quote, why do we concentrate on the impersonalist? Unquote. Kirtananda asked. Quote, why do we attack them so much? Why don't we concentrate our attack on the atheist? Unquote. Quote, you say that because you are an impersonalist, Prabhupada answered angrily. On another occasion, Prabhupada explained that non-devotees who mislead the innocent public are demons and should be exposed. Kirtananda objected. Quote, if you call them demons, they will never come around, unquote. Quote, but they are demons, Prabhupada replied. Quote, but we can't call them demons, Swamiji, unquote. Yes, they are demons. Unless you understand this point, you will not make any advancement in Krishna consciousness, unquote. Can demons become devotees? Kirtananda asked. Oh yes, Prabhupada answered. Quote, if they chant Hare Krishna and render service, even demons become devotees. Wonderful. Most of the devotees has to remain in San Francisco, hoping for a chance to visit Swamiji. From the few who knew firsthand, they heard about Swamiji's plan to leave for India, perhaps never to return. It was painful to hear. He's going almost to death, but then returning by Krishna's grace and rejoining them in San Francisco, yet being unable to stay with them as before. And now, his plan of going to India may be forever. This activity intensified their concerns and same time love for him. Devotees worried speculating on whether they could carry on without Swamiji. One devotee suggested that perhaps one of the Swamiji's godbrothers should come to America and fill in for Swamiji. And if the worst happened, take over the leadership of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When the suggestion reached Prabhupada, he considered it without immediately replying. So Mukunda Maharaj is describing in his own word as follows. I was sitting alone with Swamiji in his room, and he was very grave and silent. His eyes were closed. Then suddenly tears began flowing from his eyes. And he said in a choked voice, quote, my spiritual master was no ordinary spiritual master, unquote. Then he paused for some time, and wiping the tears from his cheeks, he said in an even more choked voice, quote, he saved me, unquote. At that point, I began to understand the meaning of this spiritual master and dropped all consideration of ever replacing Swamiji. After 2 days, Prabhupada said he would not call any of his godbrothers to come and take care of his disciples. He said, quote, if this person speak just one word different from what I'm speaking, there will be a great confusion among you, unquote. Actually, he said the idea was an insult to the spiritual master. So Prabhupada said that he would initiate the new followers in San Francisco and ask that they come one at a time and stay overnight with him. Without performing any fire ceremonies, he simply talked with each new person, asking him to follow the 4 rules and chant 16 rounds a day. And when the follower promised, Prabhupada initiated him, sitting on the bed while the disciple sat before him on the floor. Prabhupada would chant quietly on the disciple's beats and then give him or her a spiritual name. That's how the initiation was taking place. We read for acharyas also that it just the acceptance of the disciple and the spiritual master. There was no fire sacrifice, no nothing. But the difference is why we have to bring all these external things. So at least we remain conscious that I have taken a vow, because we are so dull. This age of Kali has made us so illusion that even after taking this vow, still we don't follow properly. So that's why all this external thing appears. Otherwise, when Narottam Das Thakur took initiation from Loknath Swami, it was just a discussion. And as we know, Narottam Das Thakur was going to leave this world if he doesn't accept him. And Loknath Swami Maharaj had only one disciple, Narottam Das Thakur. So we came into the great Guru Parampara, but we have diluted so much. As we were reading today from the Brahmana's wife, the Brahmana really become morose after knowing that they really offended Krishna and Balram. They were repenting. And we see the story will go on up to the end of that 10th canto, chapter 23. Wonderful. pastimes. And it came that Lord Indra witnessed this thing, that how horrible it is to give up the service and love to the divine couple, then to do all other things. So they are accepting that hell to this knowledge, hell to this birth, hell to this our ritual performance. If we cannot show Krishna with love, everything is useless. That's the conclusion. Even today they came. But there is furthermore realization the Brahmanas will speak out.